Good morning, Cedar Park. Today is Monday, February 24th, and it's an A-Day.
This morning, an exclusive interview with Leander ISD Superintendent Dr. Bruce Gearing on the impending budget cuts and what they mean for students at CPHS.
Also in this morning's brief, learn about how a massive fast food company is migrating to Texas and why it's caused controversy.
Plus, Reese Elizondo and Austin Makaborski are live in the studio with the latest on your spring sports.
Turn it up because the Wolfcast starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the Wolfcast. I'm Lulu Lynch.
And I'm Kira Cox.
This morning we continue our reporting on the budget crisis in LISD and how it will impact you.
Earlier this month, the district announced that more than $30 million in cuts were going to be made, resulting in a 6% cut of teachers. The district will also be cutting in other areas, like the IB program.
LISD leaders blame these cuts on a lack of new funding from the state of Texas, which has not increased the basic student allotment since 2019.
Reed Cummins joins us now with Leander ISD Superintendent Dr. Bruce Gearing to learn more about what's going on and how these cuts will impact students. Reed.
Thanks, Kira. So, good morning, Dr. Gearing, and thank you for joining us today. Our first question is, what is your number one message you'd like students to hear who are understandably concerned about these cuts right now?
Absolutely, and so our priority in Leander ISD is number one, the safety and security of all of our students and all of our staff. So, our parents send their most precious resource to us every morning, and our job is to make sure that we return them again every evening a little better than how we got them in the morning. That being said, our second priority then is to preserve the student experience that everybody's come to expect in Leander ISD as much as possible, even as we navigate through these challenges.
I see. So part of the budget cuts increase the average high school teacher to student ratio from 20 students and one teacher to 22 students to one teacher. Some classes here at CPHS already have more than 30 students. Should students be worried about bigger class sizes next year?
Yeah, so I think there's a reality that we all have to face in this time that we find ourselves. This is not going to be business as usual as we've always experienced it. But that being said, that 20-to-1 is really an overall ratio of educators to students, not just teachers. And so it is a little misleading. Mm-hmm. What we did as part of this process is really try to understand. So if we shift that ratio from 20-to-1 to 22-to-1, what does that do in reality to class sizes? And remember that those class sizes are largely determined by how efficiently we can conduct a master schedule. And so we're working really diligently with your principal and the administrative team to make sure that they have the best tools available to them and the training that they need to be as efficient and effective as they can with the master schedule. But we all are also watching those class sizes very carefully.
Okay, so would you say students may have to expect some larger class sizes next year?
I think that is part of what they're gonna have to face as we go forward.
With some nuance, I see. Okay, so aside from the state not increasing the basic student allotment, what responsibility would you say the district has for this deficit?
So really, the district has been a great steward of taxpayer dollars over many, many years. And part of the reason that we're in this position is that we've tried to protect the student-facing part of our personnel as much as possible over time. And we've also tried to protect our entire community from some of these reductions that we've had to make. And so this year, for example, in our current year budget, we're actually running a relatively large deficit, much larger than we'd like. But that's because we said, let's see if we can manage some of these reductions that we've had in state aid. And in the inflation environment that we're in, let's see if we can cover some of that and see if the legislature does something. looks to us like there's not going to be enough movement on that, and we cannot continue to spend out of our savings account, out of our fund balance year after year, and remain financially solvent. And so these reductions are absolutely necessary as we go forward in order to make sure that we remain financially stable for the long term.
I see. So could smaller cuts have been made sooner over time to avoid as big of cuts as we are experiencing now?
The important part to remember is that we've been making reductions over time,
Right.
In a number of ways. Again, we tried to reduce those as much as possible to, avoid affecting the student experience as much as possible, and it's just not possible to do that any longer.
Right. What process is the district using to determine what programs, like the IB program, for example, are and are not being cut? Like, what exactly are the parameters for that?
So this all starts, of course, with the board setting the budget parameters that we have for developing the budget. That is a long process. The board won't actually approve this 25-26 budget until the end of June. And so we still have a lot of process to go, and changes could happen over that time. The legislature is in session, and so we won't know exactly what they're doing until a little bit later in the spring. But this process has been a very collaborative one with our school leadership and our district leadership. We've gone backwards and forwards really since the late fall, examining data and really making sure that we understand the situation that we're in very well, and then starting to be as creative as possible with trying to make sure that our revenue estimates are good, that we are looking at any possible revenue increases that we can find, but then also looking at our expenditures and saying, how do we reduce these expenditures to make sure that we get inside the parameters the board has set for us.
I see. So in this budgeting process, has the district considered closing down or repurposing any campuses because of the cuts?
So that is almost a parallel conversation that's happening at the same time. That conversation has actually been going on for about 2 years now through the Long Range Planning Committee.
I see.
That work has been happening in the community with the community. We're in a new phase of that work now where the board and the administration are working really closely together based on the recommendations that the committee have made to us on trying to finalize what that looks like. So you'll start to see those pieces of long-range planning coming out during board meetings. At the last board meeting, we talked about what are the space needs that the district still has, and our next process is going to be to determine what space exists in the district that could be utilized to meet those needs, and then we'll start to try to marry those two things together.
I see. All right, so in an interview with us earlier this week, Dr. Delakia, our school board president, she said that she wished the board would have been consulted a little bit more before the rollout of the budget cut news. What is your response to that?
So on January 23rd, the board set budget parameters for the district to develop the 25-26 budget. Based on those parameters, we had about a $21.2 million deficit gap that we needed to close. We're about 87% of our budget in people, and so the only way for us to close that gap is to reduce the number of staff we have in the district. So we then kicked into high gear as an administration to try to figure out how were we going to meet those expenditure needs. We did meet with board members in small groups and explain to them what we were planning to do and how we were going to roll that out prior to actually making those announcements. We were under some time constraints. We wanted to get that message out as quickly and as early as possible because we need our campuses to be able to understand what their staffing allocations are so that they can adequately plan through the spring for next year in terms of hiring and making sure that we are surplusing as those positions become available, making sure that we're able to do this as much through natural attrition as possible. So we were under some time constraints in order to do that. So we do understand how the board feels, and we are continuing to have conversations with them. We had some of that conversation at the last board meeting on the 13th. We do have a budget workshop coming up on the 27th, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more in-depth conversation in public with the whole board at that time.
I see. So for you personally, what has been the hardest part of like kind of organizing all of this these past couple of weeks?
So the hardest part of all of this is that we are a human capacity organization. The strength of Leander ISD is really the people and the relationships that we have between us. And so that's always the hardest part when you're having to reduce the number of people that you have in the organization. It's very personal. This is the real lives of real people that are being affected. And that's the most difficult thing for us to deal with, is how do we do this in a way that still honors and respects the dignity of all of our staff and preserves as much as possible the student experience.
Right. So going back to the state's role in public school funding, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has made it a priority to fund school vouchers that could be used to support private schools. Why do you think that idea resonated with the governor and other supporters so much?
I think there's a big push nationally for school choice. I think that's something that I don't necessarily disagree with. I believe that parents should have the ability to choose how to raise their children and how to educate their children. In Texas, public school is the largest offering for the most parents, the majority of parents. Over 90% of parents in the state choose public school for their children and their education. So I believe in choice. I believe there should be that choice. I also believe that we have a responsibility to make that choice the best possible choice it can be with the resources that we're given, and we continue to work really hard to do that. What I don't agree with is when we use public school dollars to fund private education. I think that's a mistake, and I think we need to be very, very careful with how that plays out going forward.
I see. So going back to school choice, why do you think some parents may choose to send their children to private or charter schools over Leander ISD?
There are a lot of different reasons that parents may choose that, and I'll say again, that is absolutely their right, and they should have that choice. I just need us to be very careful how we fund that choice.
I see. Do you believe that there's any room for compromise on the issue at the state level to provide both school vouchers and increase public school funding?
I do think that they need to address public school funding. There is no doubt that if you look across the state, school districts are in the same position. They're running deficit budgets, they're reducing budgets across the state, schools are closing across the state. I believe that the future of our state is sitting in our public schools right now. You guys are the future. You're the future leaders, you're the future workforce, you're the future power of our economy, you're the future of who we are and what we do. And so how well we educate you becomes absolutely critical. Well, if the majority of that education is happening in public schools, then we need to adequately fund public schools.
Right. So in our first interview with Dr. Delakia, she emphasized how important transparency was to the district during this process. How can the community stay informed about these budget cuts as things are developing?
It's a great question. So we are being as transparent and as honest and open as we can. All of these materials are available on our website as much as we possibly can. We have really worked hard with our staff to make sure that they are fully informed. We've had listening sessions with them. I've answered as many questions as possible. We continue to do that listening and making sure that we're meeting those needs. If anybody has specific questions, they are happy to reach out to us. We do have Let's Talk, and they are free to contact us, and we'll try to respond to those as best we can.
Awesome. What would you say is keeping you motivated and hopeful during these difficult times?
I'll tell you that my hope is in our future generations, in the students who are sitting in our public school classrooms right now. Because every time I go into our schools and see what our students are doing and how successful they are, and that's where my hope lies. There are some big challenges coming our way, and those challenges will likely get bigger as we go forward. But the job that we do, helping our students prepare themselves for that future, whatever that holds, is what is becoming critical.
Awesome. So after all of that, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I just want to say that these are challenging times, but we've faced challenges before, and the way that we get through these challenges is by coming in and coming together. We are #OneLISD, and I know some people think that's cheesy, but we really are one family. We're one community, and when we come together, the synergy of that and those relationships is what will get us through even these difficult times.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you again for joining us and giving some students some perspective. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Reed. You can catch the full uncut interview on our YouTube channel at CPHS News.
You can also catch up on our previous reporting that explains the budget cuts in detail, as well as an interview with LASD School Board President.
We'll be right back with today's top headlines with Jack Cooper right after these announcements.
Good morning, Cedar Park. I'm Jack Cooper, and welcome to this morning's brief. First, the Pope remains in critical medical condition. Intel from the Vatican tells of Pope Francis suffering early kidney failure and pneumonia. The Pope's doctors stated that the Pope's health was, quote, touch and go, end quote, due to his age and fragility, as well as a pre-existing lung disease. Prayers for the 88-year-old Pope have been heard all around the world as the Pope stays alert and responsive. Next, an American flag was hung upside down from a mountain in Yosemite National Park. The flag was hung from the mountain El Capitan on Saturday as a way of protest. The rock climbers who hung the flag stated it was done to protest the mass firings of National Park Service employees by the Trump administration, saying, quote, the public lands in the U.S. are under attack, end quote. However, due to recent outcry, a few National Park Service jobs have been reinstated. Finally, KFC announced they will be moving their headquarters to right here in Texas. The famed chicken restaurant that is internationally recognized as Kentucky Fried Chicken will be making its way to Dallas in the coming months after decisions made by KFC's parent company, Yum Brands. This news has left some Kentucky citizens with a bad taste in their mouth, as Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear called for the company to rethink their decision, saying KFC is a part of Kentucky's heritage. So, how do you guys feel about this change?
It's so interesting. I'm trying to think of like an equivalent. Like there are so many like brands that are associated with Texas. It would be so weird if they just moved to like Wisconsin or like Vermont.
Well, it
like,
reminds me of, wasn't Whataburger like just
Yeah,
Texas,
I was
and
just
then they
thinking
kind of
about
went to
that.
other
Like, and
places?
that's
moved out.
okay because Whataburger doesn't have, it's not Texas burger.
Yeah,
like, it
yeah.
doesn't-
True.
It's chill, but Kentucky Fried Chicken, like that's
It
just
has a
so,
name in it.
But I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it's so
I feel like
interesting.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's around the country and outside of the country even.
Yeah.
True.
But it's still like, it's a Kentucky brand.
Yeah, right. Like it
Exactly.
still is Kentucky Fried Chicken, so
Yeah.
I guess it's okay.
I think the reason that they did this is, I was reading up on this, the company that owns them, they also own like chains like Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, and their offices are
Might
located
just
in
make things
Dallas.
easier.
So
I see,
yeah,
yes.
just to like have everything close together, but still it's a little weird because it's the Kentucky
Yeah.
brand.
The
yeah.
tweet was like, should we name it Texas Fried Chicken?
Yeah.
But yeah, have y'all ever been to one of those like combination like Pizza Hut and like Kentucky Fried Chicken things?
What?
Or,
I
like,
don't think so.
Dude, in Dallas there was like a combo Taco Bell and KFC. It was the greatest thing ever. You could
I've
get your
been to
chicken
one of
and a
those
Baja
like
Blast.
gas station McDonald's.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
well,
what I'm
dude, this
more
is a
familiar
whole
with.
nother like.
That seems like a whole different
It's
situation
crazy.
that I like.
I just wanted to plug that on the podcast one day. Well, thanks, Jack. We'll be right back with an all-new sports report right after this break.
morning, Cedar Park, and welcome back to Wolfcast Sports Report. I'm Risa Elizondo.
I'm Austin Macaborski. Let's start with our girls basketball team who played against Liberty Hill on Friday night in the regional finals.
The girls put up a good fight, but sadly fell 40-58. They finished their season with a 28-9 record and a 10-4 district record. Great job this season, ladies, and we can't wait to see y'all next year.
Now over to soccer. Both boys and girls played on Saturday due to the freezing temperatures on Friday. Our girls soccer team took an impressive 8-0 win.
Goals from the game include Meredith Colts and Blake Yoki with 2 goals, then Aaron Childs Mayer, Morgan Tran, Isla Gallant, and Ella Buffington each had 1 goal. The next game is tomorrow night here at home against Leander at 7.
Then our boys soccer team also took on Lehman and won 3-2. Scorers from the game were Aiden Marshall, Moritz, Remark, and Alexander Foreman.
The next game is tomorrow night at Leander. Good luck.
For updates on CPHS sports throughout the week, check out our X at CPHS_sports. With CPHS News, I'm Austin Macaborski.
And I'm Risa Elizondo.
Thanks, Reese and Austin. And that's today's Wolfcast. Thank you for taking the time to join us during your day.
You can catch anything you missed and more on our X, YouTube, or TikTok at CPHS News.
Catch tomorrow's show to find out how you can win a free Honda. With CPHS News, I'm Lulu Lynch.
I'm Reed Cummins.
And I'm Kira Cox. For to make it a great day or not, the choice is yours. Have a magnificent Monday, Cedar Park.